The Dice Tower, episode 583, PAXU 2018.
The Dice Tower is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. This episode is sponsored by USAopoly. Share laughter and make memories. Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them.
In today's show, Mandi and I talk about some of our experiences at PAX Unplugged 2018 and a few of the games that we've played, and we might rope in a few visitors as well. My name is Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
Mandi, we are here in our hotel room.
Yeah, exactly. Not even PAX. The hotel room near PAX.
I know, it's almost false to say live from PAX. We're in our hotel room, our lovely hotel room. It's the last day, Sunday morning, and getting ready to go to the convention hall for our last day at this convention and get to record some of the podcast. And I've got to say, it's my first time here at PAXU, which isn't a big deal because it's only the second year of the convention.
It's no big deal.
So it's not like, oh, I've never been before. It's a brand new convention. And for a brand new convention, it's really cool. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, maybe I don't know what the numbers are, how many attendees come, but I really like the size of it right now. Mm-hmm. You basically walk into a huge convention hall and half of it is vendor booths, really nice big vendor booths like you would see at Origins or at Gen Con with lots of games and some have demo tables and some have new games, some have selling games. And then the entire other half of this massive hall are just rows and rows of open tables for free play. There's a game library where you can borrow games as well. And overall, it just feels like there's enough space. It doesn't feel like a human crush like some of the bigger conventions can. And I really like that. Now, you were here last year, Mandi. How has PAX Unplugged grown and changed since its first year?
So definitely the first year, it was on the smaller end of the spectrum. I think I heard a 20,000, 25,000 get thrown around this year. So I don't know what that compares to from the last time I was here, but it is definitely bigger, busier, in all sense of the words. I've heard double.
Oh, wow.
From last year. And I believe it. So, I discovered rooms for gaming that I hadn't seen last year. So huge rooms, which were always packed. We walked into one. I think it was after the hall had closed and it was full. We walked to another room. It was full. So they've expanded the play areas. I find last year we had a lot of newer gamers. That was the predominant kind of crowd at PAX. This year I do find we still have that. We do have some of the more seasoned or experienced gamers showing up this year. And I think that has to do with some other conventions were kind of moved and not in line with PAX on the same weekend. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So that definitely changed. I think there were more publishers or companies here this year because I think that's expanded the hall. Although I'm working in Renegade and I feel the booth is a little bit smaller and that could be because they've now adjusted to have more exhibitors in the hall. Other than that, I would just say, people-wise, it's definitely a lot more. Like, Saturday was insane. Friday was busy, but Saturday was insane. So, not Gen Con insane, but insane.
Yeah, not Gen Con insane, but without a doubt, walking through the halls on Saturday, it was a little tighter, and you couldn't necessarily move full speed anywhere you wanted to go, but it was great. And I've been one of my biggest complaints about going to conventions, which sounds awful because it's so amazing to get to go to conventions.
Exactly.
Is food, of course. Come on now, y'all. You know how I feel about my food. And I love the food options here. It ended up being really cool because right across the street from the convention center, there's this place called Reading Terminal Market. And it's like a farmer's market inside of a building. So there's all sorts of different, not stands, that's like booths or like mini store. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a permanent, it's like Pike Place Market. It reminds me of Pike's Place Market in Seattle. And there's just a tremendous variety of food options. I've been eating these vegan breakfast sandwiches that are so yummy in the morning. And it's amazing how a nice meal can perk you up as you're headed in for a busy day at a convention. So that's been a very nice surprise. And I remember walking around, and then we ran into Tom and Jason and that crew, and they were shoving massive, not Rice Krispie treats, but Fruity Pebble treats.
Yeah.
It was like Rice Krispie treats made out of Fruity Pebbles, and they wouldn't tell me where they got them.
Was
it was like they wanted to hoard them and keep them as a secret.
Was that their breakfast? I can't remember. Was that like...
that was their breakfast.
Or dessert after the breakfast.
Breakfast of champions. But overall, I think PAX Unplugged has been very positive.
Yes.
And I like the vibe. I like the variety. If you play RPGs, I don't play RPGs at conventions typically, but I've noticed we've gone through a number of doors where there are dedicated RPG. Right. There are a lot of RPG publishing booths here as well. There's a little bit of cosplay, not a ton, and I don't know if there's any organized cosplay events, but I've seen some people walking around cosplay that's pretty fun. And there's also a nice unpub, a dedicated unpub room, which unpub, if you're not familiar, is a growing entity that is really dedicated to giving new designers or designers with new designs a chance to play test and talk to other designers, share information, knowledge, advice, tips, feedback. And it's a wonderful community. And Unpub has a room here, and it's been constantly busy. And I think that is cool that people could come to PAX Unplugged and not only play published games, but also try new games and be part of how new games get developed. So that's another thing that I've really liked here at PAXU.
And also, I really like the PAX does dedicated employees, like enforcers or people that are kind of dedicated to certain areas or booths where if they have any questions, any issues, just general things, and they're there to help you. So, there's always someone available that you can hand, hey, where's this? Or, hey, we need help with this. So I thought that was really good this year. They really stepped that up as well. And I did a learn and play, and we had people dedicated to helping out in that room. Like, can we help you set up? Is there something we can get you? Like, very accommodating, really nice. So I like the fact that they had so many points of contact for you to get in touch with.
That's an interesting observation because I think conventions like Board Game Geek Con has a wonderful staff, and they wear jerseys and they're very clearly identifiable. And I think that's so helpful. And you're right, here at PAXU, everybody is wearing very distinct shirts. But a difference from this to other conventions, there's a ton of them.
There's a lot.
They are everywhere. These enforcers are everywhere. And I wonder how much of that is a carryover from PAX.
Right.
Because we're talking to y'all like you just know what we're talking about. And then, apologies if you don't, if we haven't said enough context. But of course, as a board and card game podcast, this is a board and card game. PAX Unplugged is the board game or the analog focused branch of a very popular, long-standing video game convention called PAX. And PAX Unplugged started just last year. This is its second year. And PAX, though, as a branch of this pre-existing thing, the digital PAX, have you been to like a PAX Prime or PAX West or?
No, I've been to like a video game type convention, just not PAX.
Right. So PAX being so well established and so like that, there are definitely elements of PAX that I can see in PAX Unplugged. And PAX Unplugged carrying over those traditions and practices, and the enforcers are one of them, which is such a harsh word.
And they're not like, burly coming after you. Not at all.
Oh, these are such nice people. And I think they've done a great job of staffing that and having people. I think that was a great observation, Mandy, for sure. And I think that's a carryover from their other ones. But lots of games to see. I think that if you're looking for a convention, I've talked to a number of people where they've said PAX Unplugged is their first big convention. And what do you think, Mandy? Do you think that PAX Unplugged makes a good first, quote unquote, big convention?
I would definitely say yes. I mean, from last year, if you were coming and you were like, oh, you just wanted to get your feet wet, I would definitely have said this one. I still think it's a good one to come to. Maybe not your first one because I think it's just going to keep getting bigger. So if it's your first, quote unquote, big convention, then yes, this would be a good one to start. If this is your first convention ever, I don't necessarily think this might be the first one you want to start with. So just with the amount of people, I think being around people who are newer to the industry, you'll definitely like that aspect, but it can get a little crazy. Or maybe just come for a certain part of the week. Maybe don't come on the Saturday, come from the Friday, or come for one day, or come maybe Sunday's a quieter day. I think it would be if you have issues with the crowds. Mm-hmm. It's still pretty busy. It's not Gen Con busy, but it is still busy. But if you're if you want to try like a new, bigger game convention, I think this would be a good first start.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's what we've been doing at PAX Unplugged. Now, we got to play some games together. Mandy and I, we're actually not spending all of our time at the Dice Tower booth. Mandy, you're at the Renegade booth primarily.
Yes, doing a lot of spell smashers.
And I am primarily helping Restoration Games, doing a lot of Fireball Island. And I will, again, just say anytime I talk about a Restoration game, I work behind the scenes a little bit with them. I consult with Fireball, with Restoration Games behind the scenes. So I want to disclaim that up front so that there's no confusion on that front. But so I'm over helping Restoration Games. So we haven't gotten to spend as much time as we often get to at conventions, Mandy.
That's right. But
we did get to play some games together and separately. And we should probably talk about some games.
Definitely. So this is going to be a little different than what we usually do. We're going to talk about a game each that we've played, more than once and give a little bit of information about it. So kind of quick review of it. And then we're going to do a joint effort on a game we played here at PAX as a first time play, what do we think about it, and maybe revisit it at a later time for a full review. So I will start off, as I said earlier, I have been playing a lot of Spell Smashers. And this is published by Renegade Games. It is a local designer. It's
Chris Chung.
Chris Chung, yeah, and he's in Toronto. So he's also done Lanterns, if you're familiar with that game. So in Spell Smashers, yes, this is the line I use because it's so good. You literally spell some words and smash some monsters. Come on, it's super concise. So if you're familiar with paperback, it does have that element with the whole, getting your words, your letters together and then spelling words. So that part is very familiar. And then you get a certain amount of hit points in this case, when you're attacking monsters. So in the first phase, you have a board. Each player has their board, and in the board it has cards that you can accumulate for weapons and for armor. So these are something you can use in the game. You get to use one of each of those on a turn. You also are going to collect coins, which are going to be worth some points at the end of the game. Ale tokens, yes, little beer tokens, and those are worth 1 point each. And there's also quests you can complete, and the quests are worth the point value that's on them. There are also monster trophies. So these are the monsters you're battling, and collecting these give you a few things. You get the letter on the tile to use in your words for future turns. And they also have element symbols, which we're going to discuss in a bit, that can help attack other monsters. They're also worth 3 big victory points at the end of the game. So in the first phase, all of the players, we determine initiative. And so you're like, what? How do we do that? So this cute little token, everybody is going to get their words together, decide what armor and shield they're going, armor and weapon they're going to activate, and then play their word. And these might give them extra hit points when they're attacking the monster. Player with the most letters gets initiative. So they're the ones that are going to start, and then everybody else goes in order of letters. So most, second most, third most, fourth most. And that's how that happens. So once that happens, everyone plays out their letters, and then you count the amount of points on the cards. So each card may have a different point value depending on the letter that you've used. Count that up, and you decide what monster you're battling. Some of these monsters will have stipulations, like if you have a card that has a water drop on it, certain monsters may say, hey, okay, those cards are now worth double, so you get double hit points and things like that. When you hit the monsters, it's money that you're acquiring. And the money's going to help you later because the money's going to let you buy more cards and things in the market. So this is how the monster get hits, but some of them will come after you and wound you. And you got to take some wound cards, which are cards that are a bit harder to use in your word. So multiple letters on a card, like a T-O or something like this, or an ING, which sometimes can be difficult for people to add into their word. You can get rid of those cards by playing them out at a later turn. So once all players have done that, battle the monsters, you're going to grab some quests. And those are things you can complete throughout the game on the end of your turn. Then everybody goes to the market, and there are a few things you can buy there. You can buy antidotes or tokens that help you change letters in your words. You can get some more armor or weapons. You can even get rid of some wound tokens, but there's some places you may not want to go because it causes you to lose trophies, so lose some of those monsters you fought. Once that's done, everybody draws back up to 7 cards. You get a choice between consonants and vowels, which is nice, so you get to choose. And then we replace the monsters, and we go again. Play that over 7 rounds, and the player with the most points wins. So I love a good spelling game. I play a lot of them with my mom. You do not have to be a good speller to be good at this game. I get that a lot. People will come and sit down, oh, I hate spelling, I'm a terrible speller. I'm like, you can still win this game by spelling 3 or 4 letter words the entire game, and you can still win. It's about strategy. Let people, hit those monsters, maybe not kill them, and then you swoop in for the kill.
Oh, really? Now we know how you play. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. I'm like, boy, I'll just sit back, let them do the work, do my little words, and then grab a little bit of money, so enough to get something in the market. But I get the trophy. Those are worth 3 points at the end of the game. If I get a whole whack of those, hey, I'm ahead.
How many is a whack, Mandy?
Okay, a lot. So, I really enjoy it. I definitely think this game can be lengthy with downtime. I wouldn't play it with 5. I find 3 to 4 is a sweet spot. Now, if you have someone who's prone to needing that downtime in the game, definitely play with a lower player count. If you play fast, hey, then play it at that higher player count. We enjoyed it, our playthrough of it. I like the fact that it adds something else other than the spelling aspect, and I think that's what draws people in, that attack element. But definitely have to reiterate, you do not need to be a great speller to enjoy this game. And I think it's going over really well at the booth. Most people are really enjoying it. We've had family, we've had non-gamers, gamers, we've had all types of people playing it. I do find there's a lot of downtime, but it's those types of games that tends to happen. You need time to think of your words and kind of plan your attack, so to speak. So overall, I enjoyed Spell Smashers. If you're not a speller and that's not your thing, totally fine. But don't discount this on the fact that you're not great at spelling.
I think it looks fabulous. I love the production of it. I got to play this in prototype form years ago, literally years ago. And it's so fun. It's I love getting to look at early copies of games before they're fully published, because it's really cool to see how the publisher takes the prototype and converts it into a finished product. And it's so cool to see the last thing. It just has a great aesthetic to it. So that's cool. I'm glad you've been demoing the heck out of that game.
Listen, I just gave you the run through without a script. Usually I've got some notes to make sure I'm covering all the points. I've been playing the game when I can just run it down with nothing.
That's awesome. Well, I wanted to talk about a game. One of the themes I think that we've seen at Essen out of the Spiel is Tetris-inspired games.
Oh, yeah.
We saw especially a lot of Tetris-inspired roll and write games, which, yay. But we also saw a board game clearly inspired by Tetris called Achael from Nebo Games. And the great news that we found out pretty right after Essen or at Essen or right before Essen,
right before, I think,
is Pandasaurus Games is bringing Achael to a larger audience. And so it's not available in North America, for example, quite yet, but it will be from Pandasaurus, so highly relevant to all of us. Achael is a game designed by Nuno Sentiero and Paulo Soledad, which, if those names sound familiar to you, and Mandy's got a big old smile on her face, she's like, I know those names. These are the designers of games like Nippon and Madeira. Heavy, weighty Euro games.
So good.
So take a breath, everybody. 1, wonderful designer credibility, right? But 2, I'll tell you right now, not a heavy game, not in line with these massive Euros that make, burn your brain and fry it, they leak out yours. No, it's not. But I love seeing a game like this come out of designers with such wonderful design skills, for sure. So in Achael, you have a board, and I love the theme on this game too. Achael apparently is some kind of Portuguese celebration or street party or festival, and really the game thematically, and you can argue about the theme being pasted on or whatever.
Sure.
I don't like that thing, but your throwing a festival and you're trying to attract visitors to your party. And I'm always, that's just fun. And so every player gets their own personal board. And then there's big piles of polyominoes, Tetris-shaped pieces in a variety of colors, like blue, red, yellow, green. And there's a center spin, kind of spinny wheel. It's not a spinner, but it rotates. And there's cards. Mm-hmm. You play in 3 fairly quick rounds. And what happens is the cards have the shapes on them. And every turn, the wheel has 3 cards on it that represent randomly shapes. And you're going to decide on your turn whether you're going to spin the dial or take a card, and then put a piece on your board. You never actually use the cards on your board. They're just there to allocate the pieces. Once you choose a card, you actually take the piece out of the pile and put that on your board. And then the next turn moves on. Mm-hmm. The pieces must go in the table orientation is important because the piece comes off the board and it goes onto your board in the exact orientation that it's facing you. That's why you might want to spin the dial. Because if you need to rotate the piece, you actually rotate the piece by spinning the dial and then taking the card and putting that piece on your board. And of course, this really feels Tetris-y. You are definitely moving the shapes down. They slide down to the bottom of your board and they fill in the gaps. If you boof your placement and it kind of overhangs, then you've created a gap that you're not going to be able to fill. And you keep on going. Now, they've done some creative things here. So when you complete a row, and that means you've completely filled in a row with whatever shapes, however you have. Obviously, in a board game, it's hard to delete a row in the middle of the thing. Exactly. So what they've done is they've put a bar at the top and you raise the bar, indicating that you've got another line. So it kind of goes in reverse, but it feels very Tetris-y again. And you get a visitor on the bar to say, oh, I finished a row. I get to lift the bar to get some more space to play, and I get a visitor. Right. Ta-da! Meanwhile, in the pieces, the piece placement does matter. Not only are you trying to fit them into complete rows, but you're paying attention to color. Because when you put 2 pieces that match color together where they're touching, you attract a visitor that matches that color, and you just get to put it on the board on top of that. So if I put 2 red pieces together, I get to put a red visitor on there. Now, if I add another red piece to that block, I do not get another red visitor, which is an interesting scoring element to this game where you want to create little blocks or little pockets of color, but you want to create lots of little pockets of color so that you get more visitors. Because at the end of the game, you win by counting your visitors, basically. There are, though, also couples visitors, double visitors, that the person who has the single biggest red block, the single biggest yellow block, etc., gets the one couple piece, which is worth a couple extra points. Mm-hmm. But really, I found that it's better just get as many visitors as you can by creating all these little pockets of color. Now, every round, once you play through the cards, the bar drops too. Oh. Dun, dun, dun. And so if the bar drops and it impacts where you've been actively playing, or if you end up placing your pieces high enough and it impacts the bar, your bar goes away. You can no longer attract neutral visitors. And that it's not a good thing to lose that bar. So you're still, again, very Tetris-y, feeling like you're playing under a space limit, which is kind of cool. So you do that for 3 rounds. The bar drops. You count your visitors at the end of the game, and the person with the most visitors essentially wins.
Okay.
I really, really like this game. Now, I have loved Tetris for 25 years. It's one of my favorite video games. And in an odd way, thematically, they're totally different. But IL really captures the feel of Tetris with the spinning and the shapes and how it drops down and how you manage your space. I think it's all very cleverly done. You could argue it's the teeny tiniest bit fiddly, but I've thought about that a little bit, and I'm not sure I feel that way now anymore. At first I was like, I think it was just a lot of pieces on the table. There's just a lot of stuff on the table at first.
Right.
But it's not that fiddly, because once you put the piece on the board, it's on the board. This game scales very well.
Okay.
From 2, 3 to 4 players, I think it plays great at every player count. But it feels a little bit different at 2 than it does at 4. because one of the little mechanisms in the game is that you have 3 face-up cards, and then you have 3 on the rotator. When you take a card from the rotator, at the end of your turn, the last thing you do is refill the rotator, which gives the pieces to the next person.
Oh.
But you pick which cards go onto it. So there is a little bit of looking at the board,
right,
looking at your opponent's board and going, oh, you don't have a lot of little gaps where you could fit these little bumpy pieces. I'm going to give you a bunch of bumpy pieces.
So I feel that reminds me a little bit of Azul. When you play with 2, Azul can get pretty nasty.
I don't think, yes.
Not
and
the same
concept, but quite as nasty. It doesn't get quite that nasty. But in 2, because you're always giving the piece to the person you're playing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There is a lot of that. Now, you still get that in 4-player, but it feels a little more intense at 2 players. But I like that in the game. And I think I have no problems with that whatsoever. So yeah, RL, I have enjoyed the heck out of it. I'm keeping it in my collection. I have very few complaints about it. I mean, I think the biggest complaint, which I think is a silly complaint, but I'll voice it anyway, is the backs of the pieces, because you can't flip the pieces over. They've got to stay in their thing, in their specific orientation or the shape. The backs of the pieces are blank. So the art, which is very cute and colorful and cartoony and illustrative, the backs are colorful and bright and awesome. The fronts are, the backs are just plain white.
Right.
I wish they'd done some kind of prettier, neutral pattern or something like that, which I hear Pandasaurus is considering doing on their edition. That is such a ridiculous, I almost feel silly even mentioning that, but I'm trying to come up with something critical to say, and it's really hard. I love RPL. It's light, but it's engaging. It's pretty. I love that Tetris-y shape, space management puzzle. I think it's a real winner.
I'm looking forward to playing it. I'll probably won't be able to try it until Pandasaurus Games picks it up, but I'm definitely excited. Super excited.
Yeah, I think that this is one that people should check out.
All right, so let's jump into a game that we played once. I've actually technically played it twice, but once is the final copy. And we're just going to give our first thoughts on it. So that would be Cupcake Empire. I believe it's published by Ludonova. And it's actually designed by two gentlemen local to me, so Al Leduc and Yves Truny. And so Cupcake Empire, as it sounds, is delicious. So I'm trying to remember this because we played it a couple nights ago, but I lost horribly. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, Cupcake Empire is it's not a worker, it's a dice placement action selection.
Because your dice are your workers.
About running bakeries and fulfilling cupcake orders to customers and meeting their desires and their needs. And
now remember, based on the clothes that they are wearing.
Yeah, which is the goofiest thing. And it brought us a lot of laughs.
It did.
In a positive way.
Right. Absolutely.
So each turn, a player is going to, at the start, you roll your dice, and then there's different columns on your board. And you're going to place your dice based on whatever the face value is. So the ones go in the one column, the twos go in the two column, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And each of these columns are focused on a different element of the running of the bakery, whether it is placing a bakery, opening up a retail store, or developing a chocolate recipe or a frosting recipe, or getting more dice or getting enhancements, that kind of thing. Right. And on your turn, you're going to be looking at your board and figure out which column you want to activate. And depending on how many dice you have in that column, you will be able to activate that focus to a certain ability. So maybe you can unlock one basic cupcake recipe, or maybe if you've got enough dice out, you could get a swirly base cupcake recipe, and you get that token, or you open up a retail shop and you put that out on the board, which matters because the customers are out on the board, or maybe you already have a bakery out on the board and you have the recipes you need. And so then maybe the action you choose to take is to sell a cupcake to a customer and fulfill their desires as expressed by their clothing.
Their clothing.
And you're doing that. Their sixes are bad in this game.
Oh, I know.
Which is so unusual.
But we rolled so many.
Oh my gosh. Right. And in a game you want sixes. I never do.
Exactly.
So if you get sixes, they get locked. And your opponents get a little tick up the bright idea track. And bright idea tokens are great because they give you a little flexibility. First of all, they let you get your 6s back when you need them back, because you need more dice is better. But they can also get you upgrades as well and little bonuses for your board, which also help you during the game. So you go around and it's essentially a race game, because the first player, when you hit 70 points, the end game is triggered and you finish out the round and the person with the most points wins. Maybe this is a game that I know you played in, I don't know, Prototype?
Yeah. So this is the one that I had mentioned before about, it looks a little bit different than from what I had remembered, character-wise, because they had a different look to the family. So, based on it, the characters were a black family, and they've changed some of the art since then. And this was just different communication through them anyway. So I've talked to the publisher. It wasn't intentional to change the art in that direction. I mean, it's still very nice. The art is still lovely. It was just different than what I had seen. But still overall some good stuff. So when we played this game, and I don't know, I mean, obviously I played horribly because my score compared to everybody else's was pretty bad. But you can't sell your cupcakes to a certain area unless you have a retail or a bakery there.
Right.
And, I had...
thematically appropriate.
It is. But then I had, a certain somebody, Ashley, continually kick me out. So I couldn't sell any, so I spent a lot of turns trying to get it back in. And I mean, it takes time to build it back up. You have to roll the correct dice to get it in that column in order to make those retail, and then making sure you have the right recipes to sell. But if people are selling and removing those clients, and you don't have the right recipes, it's always like a bit of a catch up to do it. So I don't know. I mean, potentially poor planning on my part. Maybe I was a target. These darn conglomerates coming after the small businesses. I don't know.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting elements of the game, is that you can kick other stores out of locations, and you can basically you put a retail outlet out, and you have access to the customers in that column.
Right.
And that real estate is precious. There's not enough space for everybody to be there. You can't just earn your space and then you've unlocked that column.
Right.
And the customers don't refill. So the board is set at the beginning with little meeples that are adorable. They're really
the little faces.
Yeah, they have little expressions on their faces and all this other stuff. And once they're there, that's where they're going to be. So, and once they're satisfied, they leave and they don't refill. So you can plan, which is really nice. But if your plan gets thwarted, it can be hard to adapt, because you're planning, okay, this column has a lot of brown pants. Right. So I know I need chocolate bottoms. And this column has a lot of red shirts. So I need a lot of strawberry frosting. This is how you're planning based on the clothing.
So funny.
And certainly if you were aiming to get a lot of chocolate, but then the chocolate bottom recipe cake, I don't know, customers are being taken from you before you can get there, adapting would be challenged, because then you need to focus on, oh wait, now I've got to reset, I've got to get some vanilla bases and all that other stuff. So yeah, getting kicked out can definitely be that.
It's difficult, but
you have to kind of move quickly, and it is kind of a race game.
It absolutely is. And I mean, I think also too, I probably could have spent more time getting improvement tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So that way,
I got a lot of those, and those were very helpful.
And I didn't have a lot of those. I mean, I just seemed to keep rolling a certain number, and it was like, oh, for goodness sake. So I had to use my bright ideas to move some dice over and, kind of alter the columns that way. So these bright ideas, getting those allows you to manipulate the dice a little bit. But yeah, I definitely think it can be punishing in the fact if you don't, I won't say if you don't plan properly, but if you don't, maybe if you don't react quickly enough, or, have a kind of plan B in place, it can kind of set you back a little bit. So you do have to maybe not focus on one thing, have another avenue that you can go if something doesn't work out. So
I would love to play this again.
Yeah.
I definitely had enough there for me to want to engage with again. What I will say on a criticism point of view, is I thought there were elements that didn't feel intuitive.
Right.
So the dice, which are gorgeous.
They're great looking dice.
Wow. They have some finish on them. It's
like a matte almost.
It's kind of matte, but it feels silky. I don't know.
Silicone-y kind of maybe?
Yeah. But they're hard dice.
No, hard dice, but it has a silicone finish. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah. The dice are wonderful, and they're kind of ice cream flavor colors.
Right.
They're beautiful. They're all different colors that align with the different columns, but you can put any color in any row just based on the number. I think the teach is a little bit awkward because some pieces aren't intuitive. Once you get into the game, it makes sense. And I think we all felt that. The first few rounds were a little stilted.
Right.
Maybe more than we usually experience in a game.
Right.
But then I think we kind of hit our stride. And Mandy, quite frankly, I think that you had a rough play. I think that when you play it again, you could make maybe you made some mistakes early.
Like I think, the recipes.
Halfway through the game, it was too late to make a massive adjustment.
The recipes from the beginning, that I think was part of the issue. So you have to make sure that you are making a recipe that you can deliver. You know what I mean? So make it a bit more broad so you have more options. I think that was something that was bad for me. But yes, coming back to what you said, it did take us a few rounds to kind of get into it. And the rule book has a few things kind of that are missing or a bit off. So nowhere does it tell you when to roll your dice. You know, so I said, maybe we missed it. But no, it doesn't. Like simple, like things like this. So yes, but it's important when you do that. So just little things like that. But I mean, overall, it's fairly straightforward to understand. But yes, a few tweaks can be made there.
Yeah, but for our first play, I had a good time. I had a blast playing with you and with my new friend Ashley. And it was funny to watch. Mandy, you tried.
I did.
Bless your heart.
It was rough. But I was still okay to lose. We had fun, but definitely I will strive to do better next time.
Yeah, and the other point that I think one of the reasons why I am interested in playing it again is I won by 1 point.
Right.
And Ashley, who came in second place, she and I were playing reasonably different strategies.
Yes.
So I like that the game at the top was so close with two people playing somewhat differently. I think that that's intriguing as well.
Absolutely. So it doesn't pay to have no strategy, what I was doing. So have something in mind.
There you go. So that was our first play of Cupcake Empire. Thank you for teaching it, Mandy. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It was great. Definitely looking forward to playing it again.
Alrighty then. I think we should go back and visit some of our regular show segments. So let's take a listen there.
Sounds good.
Nope. No way. Never gonna play this game again. Wow, that was a one and done. Get in there, you stupid board.
Alrighty, folks, we're going to jump into our newest segment, One and Done. Thank you, everybody, for your feedback on it from the last...
Hey! Suzanne, Mandy, how you guys doing?
Hi, Eric.
Yeah. Are you recording the podcast right now?
Leave them alone.
Tom, they're recording the podcast.
Yes.
Can we be on?
No.
What are you doing?
No. Say no.
We're going to do the One and Done segment, but it's brand new. You haven't heard it probably much.
No, I'm good. I'm ready.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Look, he has notes in his pocket.
Tom,
ridiculous.
Tom,
just in case somebody asks.
Us too?
Thank you.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. I guess you're going to get 4 one and dones. It went over pretty well last time, so we'll see how the boys hold up to this one.
Oh, boy.
Are you going to make us go first, or you want to?
No, yeah.
Guess first.
Guess first. So, Eric, as you know, a one and done is a game that, for whatever reason, we played it, we're probably not going to play it again. It doesn't even have to be a bad game. It's just a game that, for some reasons, it's not going to hit our table again.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that game and why it's a one and done for you.
Sure. Well, this is one I've actually mentioned before. This was on my top 10 most anticipated SM games.
Oh.
It's called Magnificent Flying Machines.
Ooh. Okay.
And it's like the early days of aviation, and it's some sort of high-profile race, but it's more than just a race. You've got a whole bunch of tiles, landing spaces that you can reach, and you're supposed to get from one end to the other. That's the finish line, but that's not the only thing.
That's how races work.
That is how races work. That's the basic premise, but then there's other things you can do to earn points. You can do tricks in the air. You can do like loop-de-loops that earn you victory points, or you can deliver passengers or cargo from one space to another. But in order to do this, you have to take off and fly and land. This is a dice rolling game. Each space has sort of a threshold that you need to reach. There's weather tiles that can change this, but you might need to roll a certain number of takeoff symbols in order to take off. or a certain number of fly symbols to move from tile to tile, or you might need a certain number of landing symbols to land safely. So on your turn, you're going to pick one of these actions and roll your dice, and hopefully you succeed at what you're doing. There's parts that you can spend to make it a little bit easier to take off or land. You can even spend fuel to successfully take off or fly. You can't use extra fuel to land because going faster doesn't help you not crash.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's all
I'm
sorts
learning so much about flying.
all about aviation. And you have a little board with some technology and special powers and cards you can draft at the beginning of the game. There's even a basic setup where you just get a random assortment of stuff. So you've got tech, you've got powers, you're taking off and landing. There's a whole tree of actions, because usually you only get to do one thing. If you want to take off, you take off. If you want to land, you land, and that can help you pick up and deliver passengers or cargo or all that stuff, score points that way. But if you decide to fly, and you successfully fly, then you lose a couple dice, and then you can keep going. You can fly or do tricks, and then lose a few dice and fly or do tricks again. Same with if you start doing tricks. If you successfully do that, you score points, you get rid of some dice. So there's this weird branching action tree that sometimes you only get to do one thing, but then you get to do multiple things if you do other actions to begin with. And so one guy wasn't even worried about the race. He just kept doing loop-de-loops. and scoring points because the starting space had easy weather and the stats were easy. It gets progressively more difficult as you go. But he was just sitting there on the first tile doing loops and scoring points, and he won.
So this is one and bitter.
This is
because I feel like this is where this is going.
No, we actually found out you're supposed to lose more dice. The rule book is not good. It's written like a war game rule book. It's got the 8.1, .2, whatever. And so buried in there is a rule about losing more dice than we thought you were supposed to lose if you do the same action twice. They didn't have there was no example that showed someone doing this loop-de-loop after loop-de-loop after loop-de-loop. And so we didn't see how it was supposed to work. Even still, this has the thing that Tom hates in race games. It is a race game that moves slowly.
That's not a race game then.
Because you're worried about that tree of actions and what equipment do I use, what parts do I use, do I take this risk or not? It's a dice rolling push your luck game that moves at a glacier's pace. And so while there is more to explore in here, there's lots of more equipment, there's a bunch of different flying machines, you can do random setups. It's one and done for me. I don't think that this one's going to go on the sale pile. And it's disappointing.
It's all the time we have. He took up all the time with his game.
But he wanted to give a thorough explanation.
That was super thorough. All right. For me, I'm going to talk real briefly about Arkham Horror. The living card game. No, I played it. It was fine. I'm done. Is that what we're supposed to say?
Was that it?
I know.
That's all we needed to do,
I was not given full parameters of this segment.
No, okay, so a little bit more. I think the game is fine. It's Z's second favorite game of all time. He loves the game. These are bazillion expansions. It's very similar to the Lord of the Rings card game that came out ages ago. I like it. It's an interesting go through a haunted house and find spooky stuff, and Cthulhu's in the corner, and Cthulhu's in the corner.
Open a closet, there's Cthulhu.
Well, he was bad. His mom made him stand there. But it's just, I have Mansion of Madness, which is big and grandiose and has an app with the cool sound effects and everything.
Right.
I have Arkham Horror, the board game. I don't know. It just feels it's a card game, and I don't have a good reason for this. All right, because Seventh Continent is also a card game, and I really like that. So I don't have a good excuse why this one. I don't dislike it. It's just I feel other games do it better. So my one and done is Arkham Horror, the living card game.
Ooh, I think you might get some chat about that one.
Bring it. Z doesn't listen to this show.
Oh, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah, you go.
All right. Well, my one and done is a game called Carta Impera Victoria, or CIV.
Ooh,
Civ.
Quite
How do you like that?
No one calls it. It's going to be CIV.
It's going to be CIV.
Yeah, I was going to say, exactly.
So, Civ is a hand management and tableau management game. And you basically have 6, abilities like military or science and things like that. And you have cards that represent those things as well. And every turn you have a hand of cards and you draft them. And then every turn you're going to play a card that you drafted into your tableau. once you have a certain number of cards in a realm, like military or what have you, then you can start activating that thing's ability. And so if you reach a certain threshold, you can do that ability once. If you reach a certain higher threshold, you can do it twice. You can also do abilities that if you discard one of those cards, you can get a powerful ability. And you win the game by having a certain amount of cards in a specific, like if you have 7 religion cards, you win, or if you have 7 military cards, you win. And that's the whole game. It actually sounded really interesting to me. The art style is super cool. I love hand management games. But a couple of issues. I saw some issues in the game in the first play that we had. Definitely it had that Catan thing where the leader gets ahead and then everybody tears down the leader, and then the second person, the person who's clearly in second place, can leap to the win. I personally felt like, well, maybe it was just because we didn't know the card play as much, and if we had been more strategic and been watching out for that, we could have balanced it and combated that a little more proactively earlier in the game. But it didn't move me. I didn't, there wasn't enough that kind of went, oh, this is amazing. Oh, I wish it was a little different than that. No, it just didn't have that pop. I didn't have a moment in the game where I really felt great about it.
Right.
The art style is beautiful, but it's very samey. The card art is very, for each military, religion, or whatever, I wish they had a little more difference in the art style, in the specific illustration, just to make it a little more visually compelling. And then ultimately, I have a wonderful core play group that plays all these games with me all the time, every week, and I love them dearly. And a couple of my really good friends vastly did not enjoy this game. And I would have to they would play it again if I asked them.
Right.
But they would not enjoy it.
That's better in my play group.
Yeah, me too.
You lose some significant capital if you were to say, no, we're going to play this again.
I got to reserve those, you're going to play this game with me whether you like it or not moments to pretty rare.
I have never done that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you're just
You have
nicer
a
than
larger
you.
play group. That helps.
It's true.
When you have like a core group of people that you need to maintain that relationship and be like,
No. I'm saying I've never threatened someone and said they're going to play a game, is what I'm saying.
We're just waiting for the right moment to do that. You're going to play this or else.
Maybe it was subtle.
Yeah, I'm subtle. That's me.
I thought the game was neat because it's CIV
you played it.
and there's no. I thought it was neat looking.
Yes.
And there's 104 cards in the game. Ha ha ha. It's also the whole thing is.
Yep. CIV.
And it looks great, but Z also gave it a very mediocre. You're saying mediocre, so this is a 0 and done for me.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
So,
No, because I don't have time to play everything, and that's 2 strikes.
so Carta Impera Victoria. All right, Mandy.
All right, well. So this is a bit of a cheat, but I will preface it by saying I've done a playthrough of this game. I had to play it more than once because the person that I do the playthroughs with loves this game.
Wait, so it's not one and done.
Oh, no. It was done for me after the first play.
Is it a legacy game?
It is not. So there might be some war of words after, but let me start. Okay, so the game I'm going to talk about is Automobiles, and this is the one that was published by AEG.
Oh,
yes. AEG version. So in the game, it's a racing game, so get your car, vroom vroom. You're trying to cross the line.
that's for those listening.
Just in case, right? Not meow meow, vroom vroom. Gotta be clear.
Yes, it's not a cat racing game.
Not a cat racing game.
I would play that.
Anyway.
Okay, moving on. So, Automobiles, it acts like a deck building game, but they use cubes instead. First of all, has anyone played this game here?
Yes.
Tom has. I
Okay,
haven't.
you
I've always
haven't.
wanted to.
I have played it.
Oh boy, okay, here we go. So, it's like a deck building game, but you use cubes to build, and the cubes are different colors. They're going to do different things. You can take on, I don't know what it's called, I want to say crud, but it's like something that kind of clogs your bag like a deck builder. They have certain colored
Grit?
cubes.
Yeah. Where? Tear.
Tear, that's what it is.
Where?
I like what you said
It is
better,
where.
but all right.
Yeah, okay. And then you also have some cards that give you like extra abilities and whatnot. Long story short, you're basically using all of these things to try and cross the finish line on your track. I have never... Okay. I'm very okay with losing. It happens often.
Yes.
I've never had a... hold on there. Whoa.
I did not make any kind of agreement.
This argument started early.
I know,
yeah.
right? Jumped right in. I've never had a game made me feel so bad about myself as I had after this game.
Oh, I got a whole pile for you.
Thanks for that.
You want something to make you feel bad? Here.
Take that. But
it's one of those games you can see that you're going to lose, and there is nothing you can do about it. So I saw that I was going to lose when I had played with my friend who's very good at this game.
And flip the table.
I was close. I was
Dumps the
close.
cubes out.
But I couldn't. I was so dejected, and I just hung my head and said, I don't want to play this ever again.
But you did.
I had to. I was committed
What
to.
kind of groups are you guys in?
We had already announced we were doing a playthrough of it because my friend was so excited, and I hadn't played it. He had played it. So I was
You
like,
played this live?
yes.
Oh, I'm gonna go watch the game now.
Yeah,
I want to go see
sounds
this
entertaining.
You can see me wiping a tear near the end because I was so sad.
Have to be a link in the show notes on that one.
But I know that a lot of people really love this game, but it can literally be a very demoralizing game. And that, for me, was why I will probably never play this game again.
And that was automobiles.
Automobiles.
Which
Oh,
just
boy.
I'm not gonna fight you on this because I don't want to delete your experience. I want to ignore your personal experience with it. I will just say that Automobiles is one of my top 50 favorite
boy.
games of all time.
Really?
I absolutely love the bag building and racing. I have a blast with it every time. And
Do you think it looks beautiful?
no.
Oh, no, it's
Just
not.
was wondering.
No. But I mean, I play a lot of ugly games that I think are super duper fun.
I agree.
That's fair.
But so Automobiles, I'm sorry, Mandy. I feel sad for you, but it is an amazing game, and you're
I have
missing out.
no opinion.
You have no
I'm
opinion?
not involved in this.
You have to break the tie. 'cause
Exactly,
I haven't
come
played
on.
this yet.
You have
Oh, you
to.
I
haven't?
haven't played it. Should I try it?
Yes.
No.
It's better than Mandy's making it sound, but I can see someone falling behind and not winning because I've seen that happen in games.
I take losing very easily, so I should be fine.
Good.
No, that's garbage. She's the biggest crybaby here.
All right. Enough arguing before this whole. All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us for this.
Sorry for bothering. Let's go, Eric.
No. Since you did kind of a critical segment, I think we need to pull you in for one more where you get to be positive.
This is what happens.
All right, it don't hurt me. We'll stay.
Let's discuss those previously discovered board game gems in Shelf Staple.
I was actually the nicest in my game, I would like to point out.
Yes.
You are actually.
Well, thanks for sticking around, guys, for our Shelf Staple segment where we talk about.
I'm tied to the chair. I can't.
Yeah, just leave.
That's right.
Put a tape over his mouth until it's his turn, Mandy. This is a segment where we talk about a game that's maybe a little bit older, not a lot older, 5 or older, usually 5 years or older, that we still enjoy, that's still on our shelf, because we get to talk about a lot of new hot games.
Yeah.
But that doesn't devalue the wonderful games that have been around for a little bit longer.
Indeed.
So I'll dive in. I wanted to talk a bit about a game called Sealand. Sealand is from Ravensburger, and one of the designers is Wolfgang Kramer, who is one of my favorite game designers.
Sure.
So you put Kramer's name on anything, and I'm interested in it.
Yep.
Sealand is a game about growing tulips in the Netherlands, and I always love the tulip theme as well. But really where the game is, it's in the action. This is a very light game. It plays very easily, very quickly, where you are working in this kind of it's not a rondelle, I don't want to use that word, but it's in a circle.
Windmill?
Yes.
Huh?
And you go around, and there are random tiles that get placed out, and you move your little pawn in to claim tiles, and there's a neat little mechanism in how you claim those tiles. The tiles, depending on what you take, get placed out on the board. There's some placement rules on how it goes around the board, but ultimately, you're trying to surround windmills with tiles. You're trying to put your own windmills out at strategic moments because you only have so many of them. And then you score a variety of points based on that tile placement. There's a nice light level of interaction. The way that you get those tiles is really clean and simple but engaging, and I always like tile placement games as well. Combine all that together, the theme, the simplicity, the quickness, the tile placement, and that nice little tile selection mechanism. I think Sealand is a delightful game that I still enjoy playing. I don't know, I think it was a 2010 title, so 8 years later.
I never played it.
No, I haven't played this one.
You know, I think that it'll feel familiar now because other games do.
I looked at it and I say, I feel like I played it.
Yeah.
When I looked at the picture, but I haven't.
Yeah.
So that's Sealand.
Yeah, you mentioned the tulip theme. How many games actually have the tulip theme? You've got the one about the tulip bubble.
Yeah,
Yeah,
tulip mania.
I also.
No, there's
Sealand.
2 games about
And
the
that's
tulip
it,
puddle.
right?
Oh.
So
Yeah.
overused.
Okay. Overused.
All right, Eric, what's your shelf staple?
My game is Monopoly. Tropical Tycoon.
Oh,
So my kids...
I didn't even have time to flip the table.
I know. My kids pulled this out recently. So they just said, Dad, we're going to play this game now. And I said, oh, okay. Tropical Tycoon is a variation on the classic that uses a DVD to do some of the random elements in the game. So the chance and community chess cards are on a DVD. There's also a plot line. Random events can happen on the DVD. It's cheesy and sort of dumb, but that's the random element. There is you're playing to victory points. That's the big change here. Is that you're not just going for full monetary domination. You're playing till one player goes bankrupt and then counting points. All the stuff that you do in the game earns you points. Some of those random events can earn you a victory point. Buying and improving property is worth a victory point. And there's also different ways to improve the property. You've got the houses and hotels, I forget what they call them, resorts and cabins or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things.
So there's that, and that will earn you points. If you get to the resort, the hotel, that's worth a good number of points. But then there's also these special improvements. There's a park that earns you very little money during the course of the game, but is worth maximum points. There's a casino.
Best one.
Which will not get you all, in fact, it gets you 0 points at the end of the game, but may earn you tons of money, but may also lose you money. Somebody can land on you, and they can win at your casino, and it costs you.
Right, because they're playing at the casino.
At the casino.
Oh, okay, well,
so it randomly tells you if they win or not.
That's on the DVD as well. There's a port which will earn you more money when a cruise ship is in town that sails in and out. That's also based on the DVD. I forget what the fourth one is, but
it is a restaurant.
It's a restaurant.
Which
is maybe more the middle
I will always
of the road.
remember that.
I was going to say, right?
There's only 4 each of these. And you can build them right away. As soon as you have a Monopoly, you can build one of these that costs double the cost of a house. So then you can sort of go for the quick points or the quick big money.
The casinos.
But there's more of a risk. And there's fewer of these. That offers a good amount of decisions. The core engine is still Monopoly. You're still rolling and moving around the board, but they added, this is a Rob Davio project. He tweaked the rules. There are ways to get more properties. Everybody starts with some properties at the beginning of the game. Free parking, there's actually an official free parking rule, or when you land on it, you can buy any unowned property on the board. So you get to the point where the monopolies are on the board faster. This is the first time that I played it all the way through to a bankruptcy. If you play a short game, if you only play to an hour or 90 minutes or something, the parks become very powerful because you don't have enough time to build up to the other high value things. But when you play the full game, taking the time to build up to the hotels is worth almost as many points as building the parks. It offers some neat decisions and is worth sticking around. And if you're going to introduce,
copy of this?
I turned him on to this.
Oh, really?
He did, and I wholeheartedly agree. Yes, I think it's worth tracking down.
My problem with the game.
It sounds good fun.
My problem with the game was that the DVD. I don't even own a DVD player anymore. But I understand that someone put it online somewhere.
Okay, cool.
That is what I've heard.
Elements?
I don't know. I'm making that up, maybe.
Yeah.
But I've heard that somewhere, someplace.
Okay. My PlayStation will still play DVDs. So
nice. Yeah. Gotcha.
But it's great, and the kids really enjoyed it. My son then played it like 3 more times.
Oh, that's amazing.
Without me.
Would you say definitely like more family?
Did he say it was more fun then?
I won, and so he's like, nope, that's not happening. It's definitely a family game.
Family game, okay.
It's still Monopoly, it's still a mass market game, but it has interesting choices.
Oh my goodness, it's so much better.
Okay.
It's really
I've never heard of it.
I own this and my deluxe version of the original game, and that's it.
All right, so hot game designer these days is Phil Walker Harding.
Yes.
He just did the Gingerbread House game, Barren Park, but his first game that was very popular is Archaeology, the card game.
I love that game.
I have not played it.
You could say you love the game.
I love it.
I don't want to steal your thunder. Go for it.
That's fine. I like agreement. Archaeology, the card game. I just played this a few days ago. I did a family game night at church, and so I took a bunch of gateway type games, and this was one of them. And this game, you literally are just collecting cards. You're making sets of cards, and you draw a card in your turn, and your hand's getting bigger and bigger, so you can lay cards down at any point to score them, like Rummy. It's a Rummy-ish type game. Oh, that's cool. But if you get more points if you get a complete set, but there's also Sandstorm that make you lose half the cards in your hand. That will show up but you also can trade cards with face-up ones in the middle of the table to get your sets. That's pretty much the whole game. It's really easy. It's fun. There's a little bit of take that with thieves in it, but for some reason this game it doesn't matter. It's just so simple and quick and easy. I really like it. And the new production Z-Man did
about 2 years ago?
2 or 3 years ago, but it still counts as old because it came out way before that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've established this.
Okay, yeah, I like it a lot. Archaeology, the card game.
Good choice.
I haven't played that one.
Yeah, it's really
good.
good.
Okay,
Yeah, it's really
add it to the
It's
list.
really light. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I like that sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you need that, exactly. So we go from light to vroom, cars again, and heavy. We're going to do...
I'm really glad with these sound effects because I would not know what we were talking about.
I know, right? Gotta make it clear. So the game that I'm going to talk about is Kanban, and this is...
Never mind, I'm out.
Oh, come on. It's been... So now, to be fair, this has been recently republished by Stronghold Games, so they've done a driver's edition.
Less than a week ago, I believe.
Okay, but the game's been around since what, 2013, 2014, so it's maybe just under the wire for a shelf staple. So this is definitely on the heavier side. Kanban is a game about, well, cars, as I've talked about earlier. Vroom, vroom. And basically, you have an assembly line, and you're trying to, run this assembly line. This is very distracting as Suzanne is taking pictures as we're chatting. And in the game, the players are managers who are trying to impress those directors with this assembly line that they're trying to run. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's quite a heavy game, but there are different actions on the board that you can take in order to do so. They have this really cool track. I have a little story about this, where you get to move your cars around the track and, can give you bonuses. You do that based on taking actions on the action part of the board. The first time we set this up, posted a picture, and one of my friends was like, yeah, I'm into NASCAR and really great. And then Vital Lacerda, who is the designer of the game, looks at the picture and he goes, it looks like your cars are going backwards. It was so embarrassing. I'm like, oh wow, that is not the kind of attention I wanted for this type of game. Long story short,
Playing the advanced version.
Designer to say something. Who cares?
It means the designer's paying attention to you. But it means that you're doing the advanced version where you have to drive backwards around the track.
Exactly.
That's harder.
Did anyone not see Ready Player One?
Right?
Yeah.
See, we were just trying to get a bit of a challenge in the game. So, overall, this is a game. It's been around for a little while. They've done the new version. I actually haven't had a chance to see the new version. I think, Tom, you've taken a look at it?
Sure, it was amazing.
There was a lack of enthusiasm
Right?
there. I could tell. There was a lack of glimmer in your eye.
So I'm excited to check it out because I have the previous version. We're going to revisit this game again once I've played the newer version. I can go into a bit more detail. But Kanban, nice and crunchy, heavy, and it's about cars.
Vroom, vroom.
Oh, Suzanne, Eric's good. Suzanne's not in it. That is one
Suzanne
they do.
was tweeting.
What? No.
Yeah, her usual. Kanban, you need to have it on your shelf. I'm a big
No,
Vital
you do not
game.
need to have it on your shelf.
You do.
Unless you like heavy games. Be very specific on that. Come on.
No, you just need to have it on your shelf. It's really
I've
good.
never played it.
What?
I know.
I've played it once. I think maybe it's even half a game too. It's a demo
What?
lesson.
Seriously?
I did enjoy it.
Okay, so you
But-
did. Okay.
Yeah,
It is
it's-
on the heavier side.
It is. It's one that I didn't pick up just because I have other heavy games.
Right.
It didn't really replace any that I already have, but I did
Right.
enjoy it.
I didn't review it because you're doing it. Well, I don't have
Yes.
to do it now.
I will revisit this because it is one that I really enjoy.
I might end up playing a new deluxe version.
We should play it at the retreat.
Quote.
There
Since
you
we're
go.
doing sound effects. Oh, no.
They should be bringing games to play with you at the retreat.
Yeah, let's bring all the heavy games
That doesn't
for Tom.
work.
Antique.
Unlike, if you remember the last thing where people are like, play it as or else, that does not work on me. I'm like,
I'm still
then
waiting
what's
for
the or else?
our aggro tutorial.
You're right.
I think Tom ran away as soon as we said that.
All right, gents. Thank you so much for joining us for a couple of segments here, recording live at PAX Unplugged 2018. We're recording in the morning. The hallway, if there's a lot of background noise, it's because the hallways are filling in and people are getting set up. But it was fun to get to see you guys and record with you.
It was a
Thanks for
pleasure. These
invading.
restraints are quite comfortable.
We do our best.
I'm out.
All right, see this crinkling? Pancakes, hungry. Gotta go.
Vroom, vroom.
Well, it's always fun to have the gentlemen join us for a little bit of recording, whether they want to or not.
I know, pipe down over there. We'll loosen the restraints later.
No, seriously. Thank you, Tom and Eric, for joining us. That was awesome. We appreciate it. All right, everybody. I think we're going to wrap from PAX Unplugged. Thank you so much for joining us. I know the audio quality may be a little bit off, and apologies if it's a little bit echoey or whatever. It's always a bit challenging to record from the road. So thank you for your patience with that. Next episode 584, Tom and Eric will be back talking about exploration games.
Ooh.
I know. And there's been a little bit more of that lately. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with. And of course, as always, we love getting email. Please send us your questions. You can reach me at Suzanne@dicetower.com.
And you can reach me at Mandi, that's Mandi with an I, at dicetower.com.
Until next time, I'm Suzanne Sheldon.
And I'm Mandi Hutchinson.
And you've been listening to The Dice Tower.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vazel Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvazel.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, Rob Searing, and Jeff Rademacher. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
All right, everyone, it's now that time for Two Truths and a Lie. So let's pop back and check what we talked about last week. Or last podcast, I should say. So I like paper money in games. I like coins in games. I like both coins and paper money in games. So if you guess that I like both coins and paper money in games, that is the lie. I like you to go one way or the other. I don't like having to deal with multiple things in a game.
Okay.
I'm sorry. It's just I have to manage enough things. Coins or paper. That's just my preference.
But you're down with paper.
I am down with the paper.
Really?
I love it. Like, come on, Firefly. Hello.
That is very pretty.
Pretty money.
But it's still fiddly and hard to handle.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, interesting. All right, from last episode, I said I like custom wooden bits, I like wood cubes, and I like metal coins. And the lie is, I like metal coins.
Oh, really?
I know a lot of gamers love metal coins. For the most part, I can appreciate them as individual components, but I find to play with, they don't add that much to me. I am just as happy with a sturdy chipboard coin myself. And in the box, they are heavy and they clunk around. And if you don't store them properly, I've had game boards dented by the weight of the metal coins because of the pressure. So I'm not adding metal coins to the game actually doesn't entice me towards it anymore.
Oh my gosh, I got sweaty hands. I need the coins so they don't like the cardboard ones like stick to my hands. I'm like, this is gross. I know. Wow. All right. So for this week, here we go. I can make wax, so I can make my own wax. I can make my own soap, and I can make my own glue. That's very weird, but interesting. How about you, Suzanne?
For this week, I will go, it is somewhere around, kind of. I can bake a good cupcake.
Ooh.
I can bake a good pie. And I can bake a good pretzel.
Oh my goodness, that sounds delicious. So much better than my glue wax soap
I must be hungry. We're recording before breakfast.
All right, there you go. Good luck, everyone.
This episode is sponsored by... From USAopoly is Tapple. Fast word fun for everyone. Get ready to experience Tapple, an award-winning, fast-paced word game that gives families and friends a rush of excitement as they compete to beat the timer. Pick a category and get to thinking of words that fit the remaining letters around the Tapple wheel. But don't take too long to answer or you'll be out of that round. Be the last person standing to Tapple victory. Lots of fun for families and adults of all ages. Available at your favorite local game store today. For ages 8 and up, for 2 to 8 players, and the MSRP is $19.95.